Hello everybody, my name is Boulevard, and welcome to the last Tournament Tactician before my very large Tournament Tactician that'll be in-depth before the seasonal next week. Looking to get that out Wednesday or Thursday so that you guys have a little bit of time in order to utilize the information that I am presenting to you. So this week we're going to keep it light and breezy, especially because things have settled finally. For the last few weeks, it feels like every week there's a new deck that popped up that really shook things up. First it was Vi Shellfolk, and then it was Bandle Pirates or Ping City, and then it was Ziggs Poppy. And I feel like this week is the first week where finally nothing popped up at the last second. The meta is the meta, and we get to finally settle around that. Couple of changes to the tier list. Really, the only one I think is I consolidated all the Poppy decks into just Poppy. Originally, I did this as a meme, and I posted it on Twitter, and people were like, well, I hope you're memeing. That doesn't make any sense. So now it's not a meme. Fuck you. Why do all these decks go together? Because you can only play one of them because they all need Poppy. That's where they fit together. You just kind of pick which one, melds with your lineup the best, but at the end of the day, they're all go-wide decks. They all usually play Bandle City Mare, not necessarily Loping Telescope, but it's a go-wide Poppy deck. How much more do you need from me? Do you want to play Rallies? Does that fit your lineup? Do you want to play an anti-control win con, or do you want to play Decimates? That's really the decision that you're making here. Which of those meshes with your other strategies a little bit better? And outside of that, there really haven't been any changes to the tier list. So the meta has been settling on something different on a week-to-week basis. Usually when there is like the lineup, it's very obvious and it's very consistent across the meta. The lineup has changed pretty much every week at this point. Last week, it was Bandle Pirates and Ziggs Poppy and Draven Scion, and this week, I don't know what it's going to be. Theoretically, it's going to adapt to what it was last week, so you should see a little bit more anti-aggro. That might be where, like, the Feel the Rush and the Darkness control that I've been bigger on the tier list gets to actually pop up and do a little bit, because if Draven Scion and these burn decks are what you're expecting, I would expect that a mini-morph Shadow Isle deck is going to do pretty well. You just need to build accordingly, up the healing a little bit, maybe put in some more Withering Wails, but then there's where the caveat comes in. If you're expecting more control, because last week was so burn-centric, then these Withering Wails aren't actually doing much for you. They're dead cards in that matchup. And that's essentially the decision you have to make. I can't make the read for you. The read is something that you have to do on your own. There are no Swiss tournaments this weekend as far as I know. Mastering Runeterra is once again doing a tournament for Europe and one for the Americas on Saturday and Sunday, respectively. So like EU is Saturday, Americas is Sunday. They're single elimination tournaments, which is actually pretty good practice in that you don't want to be hard targeting things in the seasonal usually, and you don't want to be hard targeting something in a single elimination tournament. So you don't want to like play 3 Shadow Isle decks that all play 3 Withering Wail and then hope that you just run into burn the entire day, because that's not really going to work out for you in this tournament, and it's also not going to work out for you in the seasonal. But this is a good time for you to find that well-rounded comfort lineup, your XYZ lineup, and at least figure out what that looks like, so that if you don't end up playing it, you know what other people are going to be playing, and you can look to beat that. What this week looks like in terms of meta, like going into the weekend, it's really hard to like give you guys a good spread of like, hey, these are the decks that we're going to see, because things are adapting and it really comes down to how slow or fast that's happening. But what happens this week should give us a very good indication of what the seasonal will look like, since this is finally the first week where we don't have something new popping up like crazy and throwing everything into disarray. But I've been pretty happy where everything sat on the tier list so far. Sivir Demacia picked up a win last week with Deech, the only one among the top 4 of the Mastering Runeterra tournament not to be running Draven Scion and Bandle Pirates and Ziggs Poppy. So that deck is still performing. Draven Caitlyn obviously not doing super well in a burn style of format. I still think Thralls is kind of sleeper, but I can definitely see it getting put to the side if, Bandle Pirates and Ziggs Poppy are running around, and that's kind of where Shellfolk ended up getting moved down a little bit. Wasn't thriving in this kind of meta as well, which is understandable. In Bandle City and PNZ, there's really no healing for you. You're more of a value deck, a long-term style strategy, and that's not going to work out against these burn decks. But outside of that, I feel like most of the things are pretty stagnant. I think everyone's going to agree that like Poppy is tier 1, Nami's tier 1, Sivir, Draven Scion, probably would agree Darkness. Maybe you don't think FTR is, but hey, we'll figure that out when it actually comes time for the seasonal. But yeah, once again, really not much to update you guys on this week. I definitely recommend keeping up with my tournament reports that I do for Giant Slayer. You can find those at giantslayer.tv/blogs. This is the one that I wrote last week, where I kind of like go through the tournament and tell you where everybody placed. I have the lineups here and things like that. So yeah, like Ziggs Poppy very much ran a circuit last weekend with all 4 players bringing it, and then Deech being the only one to move off of the Bandle Pirates and the Draven Scion to go Plunder and Sivir Demacia. So all of these things are still doing very well. Gangplank obviously still in a phenomenal spot. I'm not sure if Plunder or Ping City is really arguably better, one or the other. I think it does just once again come down to like your lineup and your matchups and things like that. So yeah, that's about it. I will have a lot more information for you next week. Once again, look out for that on Wednesday or early Thursday at the latest, because I do want to give you guys some time to play with that information and have a good seasonal run. So, thank you so much for watching. My name is Boulevard, and as always, good luck in your tournaments this weekend. Sign-ups for the Mastering Runeterra events will be in the description below.